Wow, thank you. Lawyers and doctors and premiers and psychotherapists. We're going to have to use our big words today, Chris.
We've seen it all in the last little while.
Yes, we sure have. Wow, how are you guys doing? Yeah, great. Thank you so much for having us. What a treat to be here, and just an honor to be, like I said, sharing a stage with real heroes, real heroes.
It's been quite the weekend here. Amazing group of people that we've met and spoke to throughout the weekend here, and I can't be prouder to take part in this. As most people are aware, Tamara and I are actually legally able to sit on the same stage together now.
Yes. Our government-imposed timeout is now over. Isn't that sweet?
Thanks to the efforts. I know John Carpe is left here, but we'd like to give him a shout out in the Justice Center. Thanks to his efforts. We had to do a motion a month and a half ago, something like that. We'd asked the Crown quietly behind the scenes if he would remove our conditions, seeing as the evidence was done, the evidentiary portion was done, and the defense was done. If they would remove the conditions against Tamara and I, and the answer back was no. So we had to file a motion with the judge and actually take it in front of her and have her make the decision whether we would be allowed to actually have a conversation together. And it was a lengthy ruling on, I believe, at the end of April, wasn't it? Something in there?
I think so. May something, I think.
Yeah.
We've been busy.
We won. We
did win.
We got a win, so.
I know. We're not really very scary. I think both of us are charged with intimidation, which I find actually hilarious because, I mean, you've seen I'm like 5 feet tall. He might be intimidating, though.
A little bit. There's a lot of questions right now because the media isn't really talking about us when it comes to our lengthy criminal trial in Ottawa right now. So just give you a little bit of an update. We started trial on September 5th of 2023. We are now into a few months.
Oh, yeah, my gosh, wow. We were talking on the way back. Chris and I were just out in the East doing some fundraisers for Dan Hartman's cases and for some other truckers that are out there that still need help funding their legal battles. And we were talking about the Paul Bernardo trial that lasted 4 months. And we were also talking about Karla Homolka's sentencing. She was sentenced to 12 years in jail, and they're seeking 10 years for us. So that kind of puts things into perspective. Obviously, proudly, I think we scared the pants off of those guys.
We united a country, and we...
And that was quite literally, I think, the most beautiful thing about it. And I was speaking to somebody about this earlier, but, you know, for a time, all of the labels were dropped. It didn't matter what color your skin was. It didn't matter what God you worshipped. It didn't matter what your income bracket was or your geographical location. We were Canadians, period.
We realized that over the course of our lives, we've been divided by color, by race, by a geographical placement, I guess. East versus West has always had some sort of an issue between each other, and we discovered through the convoy that was created by the government. We were Canadian. We seen it firsthand. Somebody from Alberta holding a flag and you know hugging somebody from Quebec with holding a Quebec flag, and it happened. We seen it. It was the most incredible thing I was ever part of.
It was. And I think the best thing about the Freedom Convoy is that it doesn't belong to Chris Barber and it doesn't belong to Tamara Lich. It belongs to you. You guys are the reason that it was successful. And that was such a beautiful thing about it too. I mean, everyone that came was an organizer. Everyone that donated money was an organizer. You didn't come to Ottawa unless you were bringing something, donating something, contributing in some way, shoveling snow, feeding the homeless. You know, it was a true Canadian grassroots movement. And it's thanks to you guys. And people come up to us all the time, and all across Canada, the word that we heard the most was hope. And the truth of the matter is that it was you guys that gave us hope too. So thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for filling your hearts with love and patriotism like I have never seen. I grew up you know, always admiring the United States of America because they were so passionate about their country and their flag. And I just never felt that here until that moment in time. And it was beautiful.
It's kind of funny that when we drive to Ottawa, like we've done for the third or fourth time now in the last year.
They don't want to get rid of us, I think.
You know, Ottawa's actually become kind of our second home. We've got a community that comes to the courthouse, and when the trial's done, I think there'll be a portion of us that'll remain there. We can at least have lunch together now at the breaks in the
Talk
cafe
to each
room.
other in the courthouse.
It's always been the Tamara Lich crowd on one side of the convenience, the food place, and then the Chris Barber side on the other side, with lawyers sitting somewhere in between us. So we're thankful now that we're able to do that together and travel around and actually do some good with our voice here.
Yes. We have a saying, and that saying is no one gets left behind. And so whatever we can do for anybody else that needs help raising money for their legal fees. We've recently become a part of a group called Healing Together, which is focusing on the vaccine injured. It's a support group that we've put in place with our good friends Thomas and Melissa from Ottawa. And it's to, you know, help these people find the supports that they need, because what is happening to these people is exactly what we were trying to prevent. And so we have to take care of our own. Jeff Evely, I believe it was, I was at a event last weekend in Red Deer that the veterans put on, and on his slide was something that we've heard a lot of here in the last 2 days, and that is no one is coming to save you. Everybody has a part. Pick one thing. This started with a phone call. A phone call.
A much needed phone call,
Yes,
by the
that's
way.
right. Now he's my best friend in the whole world.
We were in Nova Scotia. We were in the Bay of Fundy 2 weeks ago, and we're in Victoria now. So we've traveled. Amazing country.
Yeah. Maritimers, whoa.
One of the things that we realized when we were in Ottawa, we did with the Healing Together program. The church had approximately 7 to 10 people in it the previous week before we got there, and the appointment that we had, it was double that. And the amount of people we met that have severe injuries from the vaccine is astronomical. And to sit and speak with them there, and to hear the health professionals aren't listening to them. They're not giving them any advice. They're ignoring them. And so that is a huge need right now in this country, is to start standing behind these people that are vaccine injured, and meeting them personally. It affected, you know, us.
It was
greatly.
hard. It was a hard meeting.
So going forward, that's what we're going to be looking to do, spreading that across the country here in the next upcoming months. It's going to be Healing Together. We're working on a website right now, working with Thomas and Melissa McKee in Ottawa. You want to talk about the lawsuit?
I guess so. Which one?
When you get past the 10 years we're facing in federal prison and
Yes.
the lengthy 12-month court decision, there is a $400 million lawsuit on our tails right now from the citizens of Ottawa.
Which is hilarious. Like, come at me. I don't have $400 million. Like, seriously, let's get in the realm of reality here.
Thankfully to the JCCF, another John Carpay's looking after us with that, with James Manson, legal help from Toronto right now.
Amazing.
Ottawa lawyer Paul Champ is the lawyer seeking that. So basically going after the funds.
He's really sweet.
He's a very kind person. His lead plaintiff, Zach Seeley, testified against us in the courtroom. I think that was last fall, wasn't it? She wasn't very good under cross-examination. So
She sure wasn't.
they're basically going after the money that Canadian citizens donated to the Freedom Convoy. They want all that is in the escrow accounts. As most people know or don't know, everything was frozen basically the minute it hit the bank accounts. So we were at access to very little of it, and it has been tied up in escrow for the last over 2.5 years.
Yes.
I don't know about the interest. We'd like to. One can only hope. One can only hope.
Yes. Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. Obviously, the outcome of our criminal trial is going to be a factor in that civil suit too, but it's not even certified yet. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't think it's really going to go anywhere. I've never had any anxiety about that. Have you?
I've never had an ounce of anxiety. Even sitting in the courtroom for the last 10 months, we've there's never been a got you moment. We had Two of the reporters that have been with us in the courtroom have actually said, positive things about us. Came up to us afterwards and said,
Shocking.
what they've done or what they've portrayed you as isn't what we've seen throughout the course of the trial. So
We didn't even launch a defense. We didn't even mount a defense because we're literally sitting in this courtroom. Well, first of all, the first 2 weeks was all Chris Barber, and I think I said to him one day, like, is this a Chris Barber show? Like, when's it my turn? Right?
Chris Barber's got kind of a big mouth on social media.
Yeah,
I
that's
heard.
right. But we just watched all these videos that you guys have all seen, like we're peaceful, please respect the police and, respect the rule of law. And if you're going to come and be violent or threatening, then don't come. We don't want you here. So when it came time to mount a defense, we just didn't call any evidence because we haven't seen anything that we need to defend ourselves against.
So going forward, it's Bill 63. Just be careful what you put on the internet. They will use it against you in every respect.
It's forever. We're going back to trial August the 13th. We've got 3 days, the 13th, 14th, 15th, and then we just found out we've got the following Friday. And the judge has requested written arguments now, which is great. She thinks that we can be wrapped up on the 23rd, and then it'll just be waiting for the decision. So finally, I mean, this has just been unbelievable, like unprecedented. And it's funny, if you follow me on social media, I try to troll Stephen Guilbeault as much as I can because he's a convicted criminal. And he was convicted of mischief. And you know how long his trial lasted? 0.
And if he can be the environment minister with a mischief charge,
Right.
what does that make us?
What can we do, Chris? I think he should be the PM and I should be his deputy PM. That's what I think.
I do appreciate that. But
Let me be clear. I got it.
I'll let you go political if you want. I find I'm a much better critic than I would be a politician. So at the end of the day, we still have a business to run. I've been very thankful that my son Jonathan has been basically been running the business for the last year while I've been out east and just monitoring it here and there. So we've got family at home supporting us. We've got people all across this country supporting us. Anytime we're in public, we see people that notice us and give us appreciation. You've seen a little bit of hate. For some reason, they don't come at me personally.
It's because you're a giant. But it was funny now, this trip out east, people, you can kind of tell right away by the way that they look at you. And so I'd walk into a room and somebody would look at me and I could see their mouth open and then they'd immediately see Chris come in behind me and it would be like, zip, nope. But it's mostly love. We're very blessed. And, people come up to me all the time and they say, I'm so sorry that this is happening to you. And I say, don't be, because this is what Canada needed to see happen. And again, throughout the whole thing, I mean, it was just as much spiritual for a lot of us as anything else. And I had a lady ask me today, like, what did you say to yourself, when they arrested you and you were in jail? And I said, multiple times a day, thy will, not my will. We knew that we were safe and protected. And I think that God used us and others to expose a lot of what's going on. And I remember thinking when I was arrested, I was like, okay, God, I guess you're not done with me yet. So let's go, let's dance, let's do this, They picked on the wrong grandma, put it that way.
I think when the handcuffs went on me, the first thing I thought was, yeah, I get to sleep.
Yes, that's so true.
But it's
so true. Did you get shackles too?
No, just handcuffs.
Oh, wow, that's no fun.
But I didn't know this. I've made 47 years of my life never being arrested, never being in the back of a police car, never being in a holding cell, never having handcuffs on. It's not the most comfortable place in the world, as probably Chris can contest to there.
No.
There was no sleep.
No, it was cold and awful, and I was lucky when I was in the police station the first time that one of the officers actually gave me their sweater, because it was wet that day, remember? It was kind of misty and rainy, and I got in there and all my clothes were wet, and it was just this big cement slab, and yeah, it was cold.
So going forward, something that really touched me today was watching the video before Brian and Eva came up, and watching the people that were together in those videos and seeing the unity and the love and the peace. And I know lately we've fallen from that. There's a lot of it seems to be fighting or infighting or negativity, or that we've kind of lost our way when it comes to looking back at 2022 in January and seeing where everybody was then and then seeing where everybody is now. And there's got to be a way to get back to that.
It's called finding common ground. And I want to tell you a real quick story about this, because we always talk about the left. I hate labels, period. But anyways, we're just for the sake of time. You know, we always talk about the left and how terrible they are. And I was at an event in Medicine Hat, Alberta that was, well, it was a book signing event. No, sorry, it was a Canadians for Truth event that I was speaking at. And this reporter came in who has an independent channel in Medicine Hat, and he's very left-leaning, very controversial. And what I saw happen from my team was very disturbing. They were taunting him. There was this like mob mentality. They were clapping in his face and trying to get him kicked out. And I thought, wow, they're the same. We're the same. And that's the stuff that has to stop. That's what we were talking about yesterday. We can always find common ground. 10% of the people, don't even worry about it, because they're just not going to like you just because. And that's fine. But you can always find common ground with someone. You just have to try. And the other thing I had talked about yesterday was you get to choose if you're going to help heal the division or if you're going to contribute to it. That's a choice that we all make. And it starts with you and it starts with me. And individually, that is how we win this.
On more than one occasion, I've been able to reach out to the people that were probably the most vicious to me on social media and find common ground, to the one extent that we actually met a person in Montreal last fall and actually sat and had a visit together. This is somebody that was very vile on social media, and just through conversation and almost a dare. I bet you wouldn't have the balls to come and sit and meet with me. And of course, my answer was yes. So we spent about 2 hours having a conversation, and now we're fairly decent friends. We're not politically on the same side, but we're at least we're civil to each other, and there's a difference there. So we can do that.
Yes, we can.
Going forward,
What's next?
I think the big thing is getting these people through their legal fees. We've been working with the Justice Center. Most people know the Justice Center is looking after a portion of my criminal charges, as well as Tamara, the Democracy Fund, has been looking after hers. So between the two of us, we're bouncing off $750,000 in legal fees.
$750,000 for mischief.
But we're
Isn't that crazy? It's called lawfare. But again, we kind of have to wear it like a badge of honor, because that shows how scared they are and how scared they are of you when you come together. And from a place of love, right? Exactly. That they don't like that. I think the money scared them a lot. You know, the donations that came in obviously blew us away. And I'm sure that scared them, but I know what scared them the most was when they saw Canadians standing together, all coming from a place of love. We weren't an angry mob, you know. It was just so beautiful, and it was amazing, yeah.
But we also watched the disinformation from legacy media tear us to pieces. We were right off the bat, and that message was spread right from the Prime Minister's office. And
Yes, it was. We
it
were
continues.
basically every kind of ist and phobe you can be, right?
We were. Australia, Britain,
Bolivia.
Holland. Yeah,
There was
Holland.
a convoy in Bolivia. Like, wow. Yes, yeah. I bet you no one saw that coming either, eh? In Canada? Like, it was the most passive and polite and peaceful protest of all time. Yes, it was. Yeah, I mean, we certainly never expected that to happen. I remember when. Well, my expectations is like, oh, well, maybe like raise $20,000 and these trucks will drive there, and Chris will get out with a little sign and stand there for a little while, and then hop back in his truck and come home. But
And
that
as,
wasn't quite in the cards.
and as we cross this country, we've seen exactly what Canada was made of. So I can't help but see a Canadian flag on the side of the highway now on the drive to Ottawa for trial and think that we maybe had something to do with that. I know there was a lot of Canadian flags before,
I
but
can't sing "O Canada" anymore without crying.
one of the big things I've spent my lifetime trucking across the border in the United States, as most people know. And one of the things I've always looked up to is the Americans and how high they flew the Stars and Stripe. And I always thought, why can't we do that in Canada? And through the convoy, we actually did, and I think we've done that a lot more since. We look at that flag now with a sense of pride a lot more than we did before. So I'm thankful for that.
We're very lucky, very lucky. So thank you to you guys again for supporting our journey, for being a part of our journey, and for always coming from that place of love that we always talked about in all of our videos. And another thing that has been discussed here a lot is forgiveness. And it's very hard to forgive some of these people after what they've done. But, you know, people ask me all the time, well, how do you stay so positive? And I'm just not an angry person. Like, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to put my energy there. And that's my choice, right? And I mean, and the other thing is humor. I mean, the whole thing is so ridiculous that, we have to laugh about what they're doing. You know, I grew up in small towns in Saskatchewan. I'm like not a domestic terror. No, sorry. Ideologically motivated violent extremist. All the scary words.
I even have, and like Eva said before, with the Chris Barber, the activist. I don't consider myself an activist. I consider myself a blue collar worker. I yelled at my windshield for many months through COVID until, and even going so far as to become vaccinated in December of 2022 to keep my career, to keep my customers away from the big carriers that the government was basically handing over to them. So I learned to have a voice, and then that voice transpired into something that has become what it is now, and anybody can do that. I'm just an average clown on the highway, and there's a lot more people out there that are able and willing to stand.
Yep. And we're going to do it together. We got a country to save, everyone. And I think when we left, we thought when the trucks were going to leave Ottawa that was going to be the end of it. But what we now know is that was just the beginning. We have a lot of work to do, and we're gonna get there. Somebody, I think yesterday said, is there any hope? We always have hope. That's the one word that we heard the most all across this country. Don't lose your hope, whatever happens.
And regardless of the decision, when the judge reads the verdict, we've already won, regardless.
Yes.
So
Yes,
thank
we
you,
have.
everybody.
Thank you.